Massdrop is an online group buy site with a large variety of products. Products can reach well below their MSRP, averaging around 50% off. Click the first link in the description to sign up. Hello guys, DarkLord Projects here again, and today we have a $550 crazy fast gaming PC build. So let's get started. So the CPU is the Intel Pentium G3258, which is $69. It's clocked at 3.2 GHz, it's dual core, and has no bottlenecking. This is a great CPU when it comes to gaming because it's a very small price tag and it has a pretty decent speed. It is dual core, but should be perfectly fine because most games these days barely even use 4 cores unless it's a game like Battlefield, but for the most part games usually use 1 to 2 cores. It's 3.2 GHz, which can be overclocked, but this board isn't the best for overclocking that I selected, so I'll just keep it at the stock 3.2 GHz, but that shouldn't be an issue. A cool thing about this processor is there really isn't no bottlenecking. I own the CPU myself, it's clocked at 3.2 GHz, so no overclocking at all, and I have an R9 280 OC edition, and there's no bottlenecking. I play all games at ultra settings with anti-aliasing, so that's a huge plus for the CPU. So the motherboard is the ASRock H81 Pro BTC, which is $42. It's ATX, it's LGA 1150, and is very inexpensive. So this is the cheapest LGA 1150 board on the market currently. It's an ATX board, which is a little bit better when it comes to building your PC because you don't have to push cables underneath small parts because you have a graphics card in the way. So that's a good benefit about this being an ATX board. It's LGA 1150, the same socket as the CPU, and it's very inexpensive. This is the cheapest board, like I said, on the market for LGA 1150, so it made a perfect fit for this budget build. So the RAM is the Crucial RAM, which is $73. It's 8GB, 2 4GB sticks, it's DDR3, and it's 1600 MHz. So this is some of the cheapest RAM, which is 8GB and has DDR3 1600 MHz, so I totally decided to pick this RAM for the build. At a $73 price tag, that's a little bit below the average for 8GB RAM with some pretty basic specs, but like I said in past videos, DDR3 and 1600 MHz is the average speed for DDR3 RAM these days. So the storage is a Seagate Barracuda, which is $53. It's 1TB. It's a 3.5 inch drive, it's HDD, and it's 7,200 RPM. So this is my favorite hard drive currently because of its low price tag and pretty average specs. 1TB is more than enough space. It will be able to hold at least, I don't know, possibly even 20 to 50 games depending on what type of game it is. It's a 3.5 inch HDD, which is the classic size for most hard drives these days, unless it's an SSD, and it's 7,200 RPM, which isn't the fastest, but it's fast enough to load most games with no problems at all. The graphics card is the Gigabyte Radeon R9 290, which is $255. It has 4GB of GDDR5 RAM, it's clocked at 947 MHz, it's very fast, and has 3 fans. So this is a great GPU for this build. It's an R9 290, which is the second highest consumer-friendly gaming PC GPU. It's 947 MHz, which isn't super fast, but you can easily overclock the card to around 1 GHz possibly. 4GB of GDDR5 RAM is pretty much standard for any R9 290, and it's very fast in general. This card is just crazy fast, especially with its price tag of $255. You'll be able to play games at 1080p with no issues at all, and possibly some 4K games around medium settings. It also has 3 fans, which helps with cooling a lot. If you just do the math simply, 2 fans isn't as good as 3 fans. It's a pretty long card though, thanks to the fans, and it has a pretty big PCB. So this graphics card in general is just a perfect candidate for this build because it has a great price tag of $255 and cranks out games at really high settings. So the case is the Thermaltake Commander MSI Snow Edition, which is $30. It's a very nice looking case, it has a large build environment, and it's an ATX mid-tower case. So I decided to pick this case in the NCXT Source 210 because we do have a pretty big card in this build. I know this card will easily fit inside this case in the NCXT Source 210, so I decided to pay a little bit extra to get this case instead. but it is a very nice, good looking case. I like the front design, how it has things bulging out while others are pushed back. It has a very large build environment, which is key, especially when we have an ATX motherboard in this build. So the power supply is the EVGA 500B, which is $33. It's 500 watts, it's 80 plus bronze certified, and it's non-modular. So EVGA has slowly been dropping their prices of their power supplies lately, or just have a lot of sales in general. I think they have better power supplies than Corsair. They're just a little bit higher in quality, but they kind of even out. But I decided to pick this power supply because it was on sale and it's a little bit cheaper than the Corsair Builder series. It's 500 watts, which is pretty much standard for most budget builds that I make. It's 80 plus bronze certified, which is decent, not as good as obviously as 80 plus gold certified, but it will save you a little bit of money on your power build. It's also non-modular, which is kind of a down for this power supply. So all the cables are going to be already plugged in. You can't unplug them. So you might have a few dangling cables at the bottom of the case. The overview for this PC build is it's fast and inexpensive. So there's not a lot to say about it being fast. It has an R9 290, which is one of the fastest AMD cards at this consumer grade level. So you'll be able to pump out games at 60 FPS at ultra settings at 1080p, and maybe around 60 FPS at medium settings at 4K. But that's kind of pushing it. I would possibly say low settings at 60 FPS for 4K, but you'll easily be able to play some 4K games with no problems on this card. This PC build is also very inexpensive at its $550 price tag. This is the best price to performance build I think I've ever made on my channel. You're getting some crazy fast speeds, like I said before, at a very low price. So that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure you check out purepc.net for anything tech related. All my PC builds there, and a few other YouTubers, they post all their videos there. There's some great conversations that you guys can engage in and just learn a little bit more about tech and ask your questions. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you later.